Good afternoon, Louisiana, and welcome to another edition of Bayou Bets, Monday, February 20th, the Lundi Gras edition. So happy Mardi Gras weekend to everyone. I hope you are all gearing up for some festivities tonight or tomorrow, and looking forward to a good time across Louisiana. And we're looking forward to a good time for the next 40 minutes or so. We'll be with you talking some sports betting. Of course, we're a week removed from the Super Bowl, but plenty to talk about, Spencer. Saints free agency, Pelicans restarting, the NBA All-Star Game, got some thoughts on that. PGA, we'll even talk some XFL. So we've got a little bit of everything for you. Jim Derry's still on vacation because he's a slacker, and he also happens to really like Mardi Gras. So hope he's having a good time. But
Yeah,
how are you
he
doing
is.
on this Lundi Gras?
Oh yeah, for sure, Zach. Yeah, doing good, man. Doing good. I've been enjoying some Mardi Gras too. I know Jim. He loves it, and I love it too. I live here in New Orleans. It's been cool to check it out. Checked out the Friday parades. Might go check out some more tonight. Definitely going tomorrow though. Go and check out Zulu and Rex. So looking forward to see how that goes. And in the meantime, still trying to find things to bet on without NFL, which they do have them. They had the Genesis over the weekend, Daytona 500, and LSU hot and heavy with basketball and baseball. So we've still got stuff to talk about. MLB will be starting up soon, and the NBA All-Star game. My goodness. I know we'll get to that in a little bit, but whew, that was rough.
It did provide some betting opportunities. I felt like there was a couple of tickets floating around at better than 20 to 1 odds for any player to score over 50 points, and that hit. Jason Tatum scored 55, so I think it was like plus 2100 or plus 2200 depending on where you got it. You could really make some money. Obviously, the over was a very
Yeah,
easy bet.
take the over. Take the
This
over.
this idiot bet the under because it went way under last year, and I thought, well, no one knows about the Elam ending, so it'll go under, and maybe that's part of my frustration. But we will get to that. I want to let everybody know up top we are brought to you by Caesars Sportsbook, as always, and we still have our LSU poster deal available for you. LSUposter.com. You get a 3 poster set for free. That's a $90 value. All you have to do is register for a new Caesars Sportsbook account and bet a minimum of $10. So you bet that $10, you get a $90 value. And hey, you might win the bet too. If you're smart enough to bet on the over on the NBA All-Star game, you win the bet. We do have a new look, Spencer, for Bayou Bets, and some new looking graphics, new structure, those sorts of things as we kind of go into the football offseason here. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with what we call the weekend headlines. And most of these are going to be local. Some of them won't be, depending on the weekend. Derek Carr visiting with the Jets over the weekend, the second team he has visited in his free agency. Obviously, visited New Orleans really before he was technically a free agent, but that's what it was. I mean, he was scouting out the Saints to see if that's who he wanted to play for. Now he's scouted out the Jets. We may see the Carolina Panthers. We may see some other teams involved. And so that's going on. LSU women winning again. They're now 24-1. The LSU men, actually, I think the women are 25-1 now. The men, well, they were favored by 7.5 points against South Carolina on Saturday. I really thought they were going to get off that 13-game losing streak, but no, it didn't happen. So there's always baseball. Baseball sweeps Western Michigan, gets off to a hot start. Number 1 team in the country stays right there. And then Ricky Stenhouse Jr. wins Daytona 500. We'll have more of your thoughts on that later, Spencer, as well. But let's just spend a minute talking Derek Carr. And for those of you listening, if you're not on Twitter, leave your comments and we'll get to those as well, or your questions. Derek Carr visiting the Jets. How much meaning do you put in that?
Significant. It's significant that he's meeting with them because they've got the money to acquire him. If they really want Derek Carr, they'll probably get him because they have more cap space than the Saints. So what the Saints are hoping, though, is that when Aaron Rodgers gets out of the darkness, which I think he did the darkness retreat over the weekend, he should be
I don't
back.
know. I couldn't see
Any
so.
day, unless he got lost in there. I don't know if Rodgers though does come back. The reports are saying that the Packers are done with him and that they want Jordan Love and that they're ready to trade him. And the Jets are the team that seems to really want him. So if they get Rodgers, well, then Carr's obviously not going there. But if Rodgers says I want to go to the Raiders or somewhere else and stands the Jets up, at that point, I think Carr ends up a Jet. So from the Saints' perspective, got to hope that Rodgers goes to the Jets because I think the Jets are the real only real competition that's a threat to the Saints. I feel like the Panthers could maybe make an offer, but I don't think he'd want to go there since it's the new regime. They're going to be kind of rebuilding. And so I think that the Saints are in position to get him because they've got the pieces. It's a team that's built to at least win the South. And like we said last week, if you make the playoffs, you never know what can happen.
Yeah, that's right. Pennison says, could care less about Carr, to refurbish is to put new parts on. So I want a Who Dat original. I mean, I think that's fine. I get that. If you
That's kind of think what the
hit,
Panthers are going to
yeah,
do.
I mean, if you hit on that draft pick,
Enough older
absolutely,
pieces.
because that's when your window to win in the NFL is when your quarterback is on a team friendly deal, like after the draft. But the issue with that is the Saints' highest pick is number 29. All the sure things are gone by then. And if we're being honest, even Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud, the guys at the top of the draft, are not sure things. Trevor Lawrence took him a couple of years to get going. We're still not 100% sure he's going to be the real deal. Marcus Mariota was taken at the top of the draft, never panned out. I mean, the list goes on and on and on of guys who were taken. Blake Bortles was taken at the top of the draft, never panned out. So if you're picking
Mitch
at 29,
Trubisky,
yeah, all sorts of guys. Zach Wilson, you could go on forever. But at 29, you're taking, okay, a Hendon Hooker coming off of an ACL surgery, and Anthony Richardson, who I think he's probably
he'll
gone by
probably
then
be
as
gone,
well.
yeah.
But even he, okay, he's got tremendous ceiling, but I think he's also got a very low floor. So my point is, I don't know that you're going to be drafting a guy at 29 who you're sure about at all can come in and start next year or maybe even the year after. I kind of like the idea of going after Carr, or maybe it's Jimmy Garoppolo, another free agent, and then drafting in the fourth or fifth round a quarterback. Like I really like Jake Haener from Fresno State. I've said that since last fall, as a guy you bring in and kind of groom him to be, maybe 3-4 years down the road when Carr is aging and maybe he's done with this contract, you have a guy who can step in, just kind of like Jordan Love did. Cryptomeria is here. Are you like a crypto expert? Because I could use some advice. What do I do with what I got left? Saints have a huge place in his heart, so we'll see what happens. I mean, I think if it's money, Spencer, you mentioned the Jets cap. If the Jets go up to $50 million a year, the Saints are not going to match it. You're right. I don't think the Jets are going to do that. I think, if they go to 40 and the Saints refuse to go to 42, that's a mistake on the Saints as far as I'm concerned. I know they've got cap problems, but they've shown the ability to push that stuff down the road. They just restructured Eric McCoy's contract to create a little more space. They can do that kind of thing. So if it comes down to a matter of just a couple $1 million, I think the Saints will be in this thing.
Yeah, I would think so. Gosh, it just makes me nervous though, because if you commit that much money to Derek Carr, he's above average, but he's not elite, where you're committing that much money to him, it's going to be tough to build a roster around him. As you mentioned earlier, Zach, when you have a rookie quarterback, it's a lot easier to build around him because they don't make much, making less than $10 million in their first few years. So it's like you can put pieces around him, where if Saints are paying Derek Carr $42 million. I know Mickey Loomis is a master manipulator of the cap, but at some point you're just out of luck. At some point it's a hard cap. You can't. It's not like the NBA where you can go way over and pay a luxury tax. So I get it. I get wanting Carr. I understand that he's definitely an upgrade over what the Saints have had post Drew Brees, but I just don't see it being like a magic wand kind of thing. Yeah, I think they'll be better, but I don't think it's going to be. Yeah, they might win 9 or 10 games and make the playoffs, but I don't see where Derek Carr is going to make them a Super Bowl favorite by not even close. Maybe a playoff team, but not Super Bowl contender.
No, I agree. I mean, I want to be clear. I don't think this is a magic wand by any stretch of the imagination. I do think it's the best option if you're trying to compete right now, which the Saints are. So let's move on and get into a few of our topics for the day here. And the first one is going to be the NBA All-Star Game. Last night, Team Giannis beats Team LeBron 184-175. That's not a typo. That was the final score. The total was 324, which, look, here's my story. I bet the All-Star Game last year. I bet the under because I thought people aren't going to realize the Elam ending, which is when you just have a target point total instead of a clock in the fourth quarter. The Elam ending is going to make this game lower scoring. So I thought, okay, I'm going to bet the under, and it cashed pretty easily last year. So I did the same thing this year, thinking they hadn't adjusted enough. Well, what I hadn't adjusted to is the fact that nobody played any defense in this game, and I know it's All-Star game, nobody plays any defense ever, but it was especially bad last night. I did want to highlight a couple of positive things before I give you your say, though, Spencer. One is that the dunk contest was fantastic. Mac McClung comes up from the G League and saves the dunk contest a week later. That's the best dunk contest since like Tracy McGrady. I mean, it was phenomenal the way he's pushed the envelope, and what it's going to do is make that event, must-see TV again, like it was 15 or 20 years ago, and it's kind of gotten stale. Not anymore. I mean, that guy he's doing 540 dunks. He's jumping over two people, one on the other's back. Just like wowing everybody every time he gets the ball. And you got that anticipation like you did when I was a kid for this thing. So love that. And I also love the fact that the Team Giannis versus Team LeBron drafting just an hour before the game. You wanted to tune in for that. Like the NBA All-Star Game has the most ridiculous pregame of any sporting event ever. I mean, it goes on forever and ever and ever. But like I wanted to watch that more than I wanted to watch the game to see who they were going to pick. And instead of doing it at halftime of a Thursday night TNT game, it was great to see it at the All-Star Game, Spencer. But then the game started.
Yeah, and the game started, and then dudes were literally from like way away throwing underhand passes like at the backboard. Balls are flying off, trying to do these like just showmanship dunks. I mean, it was like wannabe Harlem Globetrotters. I mean, it was so silly. I mean, I tried watching it, and I had trouble even making it past just like 5 minutes. I just had it on in the background, but I was just like, this isn't even watchable. As far as I'm like, I'm a basketball purist. I love good, like tough defense, fundamental basketball. So when I see silliness like that, it annoys me. And I knew going in there was going to be a lot of that. That going in, that they don't take it that serious and all. But to me, they kind of crossed the line as far as it was just like they were just on the playground, just acting like 12-year-olds. It was just not very entertaining in my opinion, because it's just, I mean, these are the best in the world, but they just were not locked in. I mean, they had a lot of quotes about it too. I mean, Jaylen Brown admitted it was like a freaking layup line, and the coaches, said it was the worst basketball they had, like the worst game they had ever been a part of. So if the people involved didn't even like it, it's rough.
Yeah, I mean, playground games are much more competitive than that. Like, and here's the thing.
Yeah, at least they play
said
defense on the street or on the playground.
Yeah. Second quarter, third quarter, you get kind of deep into it, and the game's starting to lag a little bit. Yeah, every All-Star game has that. Let's throw it off the backboard. Let's try some ridiculous alley-oop. Let's do a behind-the-back dribble. Let's, whatever it is. Okay, that's going to happen. My problem with it was 2 minutes into the game, they're doing this stuff. They're like, and then even in the fourth quarter, which the Elam ending is supposed to make it more competitive, they're still doing that crap. Nobody cared.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think it was kind of a farce. But what I will say is the NBA second half of the season, as we kind of come out of the All-Star game and start thinking back toward the league, Spencer, it's going to be really intriguing as we kind of look at some of these odds. The Celtics, the team that's been the best team all year long, they were the preseason favorites. Honestly, I mean, you're going to laugh when I say this. I thought they should have won it last year. I had a lot of money on them to win it last year, and they didn't get it done in the finals. But I think they're the best team. But now you have, the Bucks have Giannis. The Nuggets are healthy again. The Suns have geared up. The Clippers signed Russell Westbrook for whatever the hell they would do that today.
Blech.
Like, you have all
Terrible.
these teams, all these teams gearing up to challenge the Celtics. I think it's wide open.
Yeah, this is going to be another interesting year for the NBA Finals, I feel like, because there's more parity in the league. Past few years, we've seen more parity. But I'm with you, though, that the Celtics are the team to beat. They've got it all, and they've showed against the Bucks, even without their stars. They were without Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and still almost beat the Bucks with Giannis. So to me, this tells me that Celtics, they're to me, they are actually somewhat of a value at plus 325. I normally don't ever take the favorite, but in this case, I might. I would definitely take them over the Suns. As I mentioned last week, I want no part of the Suns. I'm not buying the Kevin Durant hype. I just don't feel like, he's gonna be able to get him over the hump. I just don't feel like he's got that same it factor that MJ, Kobe, and LeBron had. So I'm not touching the Suns with a stick. But Boston, I'm thinking my early leans probably Boston and Denver. Jokic versus Tatum, arguably the guys have had the two best seasons in the NBA this year. And then the Clippers just left LOL. I mean, Russell
What are
Westbrook,
you
come on,
doing?
man. That was so silly. You might as well have kept John Wall if you're going to bring in Russell Westbrook.
I mean, if he's running the second unit and getting 12 minutes a game, that's one thing. But if you're expecting him to be on the court and you're taking the ball out of Kawhi Leonard's hands and out of Paul George's hands, you've just made yourself worse. So I don't know why you would do that. Let me pose it to you this way, Spencer. If the Celtics are clearly the favorite in the Eastern Conference, and I think the Bucks are the clear number 2 in the Eastern Conference, the Western Conference, though, the Suns are the favorite. You said you didn't like them. Okay, the Nuggets are going to probably be the number 1 seed. I think there's value there. Who is their biggest threat in the Western Conference? Is it the new look Mavericks with Kyrie Irving? Is it the Grizzlies? Is it the Clippers, the Warriors? Who do you think gets to those Western Conference Finals and or gives the Nuggets their toughest series?
Yeah, I think the Nuggets' two biggest threats are the Grizzlies and the Warriors. I actually think the Warriors are still their biggest threat because they don't match up as well with them. Against the Grizzlies, I think they'd get past them. The Grizzlies, though, are physical and tough, so I think that series would at least go 6 or 7 if they match up at some point. But the Warriors, though, I know they're not really in a good position right now with Steph Curry hurt, but if they can still get a top 6 seed, which is still possible, Curry should be back within a few weeks to where I think they're still very much a contender. I think they could be worth a flyer at this spot. And I don't want to sound like a homer here, but like the Pels, man, if Zion comes back, could be kind of sneaky. We saw what they did last year against the number 1 seeded Suns.
Yeah, we'll see. Let's get him healthy first. Lonnie
For
agrees
sure.
with you. He says the Warriors will win. I'm going to go ahead and say the Suns. I think I understand what you're saying about Durant. That guy's legacy looks completely different if his toe is not on the line in that series against the Bucks a couple years ago. And he hit that shot. He just had his big toe on the line. And so I'll give him a pass. He's won a title. I still think they're probably the Nuggets' biggest threat. But we shall see. Moving on to our next topic, it is the PGA's Genesis Invitational. And the reason we want to talk about this is twofold. Number one, because Tiger Woods played. Tiger Woods played, and not only did he play, but Tiger Woods looked competitive. He made the cut. He actually was in the top 20 for much of the weekend. I think he finished 45th or 43rd or something like that. He didn't have a great day Sunday, somewhat predictable. I think the issue with him is still going to be, can he walk 4 rounds consecutively on 4 consecutive days and have his body hold up? Because he faded a bit on Sunday. But having said that, he had a great day Thursday. He was okay Friday, made the cut, had another great day Saturday, and like I said, was really, not that he was ever threatening to win, but he was in the top 20 and kind of more than just being there because he was Tiger, he was competing. And it was great to see just at a fantastic tournament to see Tiger Woods back and making you think he can make some noise at the Masters and the other majors this year.
Yeah, for sure. Because I mean, if I was Jim, I'd be a little nervous about his bet he made with Uncle Big Nick about Tiger never winning again. I still think Jim will be safe. I still don't think Tiger will win, but he's showing that he's going to compete. I think he'll have at least one high finish in the majors, assuming he competes in all of them. Because I think I don't want to say he's never going to be back to what he used to be, but he's definitely back to being competitive. So yeah, that's great to see. It was also cool to see how the PGA Tour is still looking hella competitive, because it looked like with the Live Golf thing last year that it would kind of affect the PGA Tour. But when I looked at the leaderboard, it was still a lot of the usual suspects up there, and then a lot of the young rising stars, because Live took a lot of the older guys, but like the young rising stars like Will Zalatoris had a great final round. The PGA Tour still got the guys on the rise, as well as enough veterans like Jon Rahm, who's been on a heater, to keep things competitive.
Yeah, I mean, I think 23 of the top 25 in the World Golf Rankings were at this tournament, so that's just 2 that are on the Live Tour who weren't there. This was like a mini major, and the fact that at the majors, the live guys will be there too, is the only difference. So this was as good as it gets. It was an elevated event on the PGA Tour. And Jon Rahm wins. And that's really the other thing I wanted to hit here is Jon Rahm, 17 under. He briefly lost. He had the lead after 3 rounds, briefly lost it to Max Homa. And I think Cantlay at one point was only 1 shot behind as well. And you mentioned Zalatoris made a charge. Sahith Theegala made a charge on Sunday, excuse me. Colin Morikawa made his charge on Saturday and then faded a bit on Sunday. But it was this crowded leaderboard. Rahm figures it out on the back 9 on Sunday. He wins 17 under. And that leads us to this. This is Jon Rahm this season. And the PGA season technically starts in October. It ends in August, starts in October. He was T4 and T8 in the 2 events he played at the end of last year. And then really when the season gets going is in January. He won the Century Tournament of Champions. That's an elevated event. Then he won the American Express. He was T7 at the Farmers Insurance at Torrey Pines. He was 3rd last week at Phoenix, another elevated event. And then the 3rd elevated event of the year, he wins the Genesis. So, you're talking about a guy in 7 starts, has won 3 times, has been top 10 all 7 times, and has been top 5 times. You don't do that in golf unless your name is Tiger Woods when you were in your 20s.
Yeah, he's on a scorching heater right now. There's no denying it. It'll be interesting to see, though, how he does in the majors, because I remember last year Scotty Scheffler got on the super heater there and won the Masters. It looked like he was unstoppable early. And I know Rahm's career resume is a little better than Scotty's, but, he's got to show me he can win these majors before he's comparing him to Tiger.
Yeah, and Jon Rahm did win the U.S. Open at Torrey Pines in 2021. So he does have 1 major, but obviously if you're going to start comparing the guy, and I'm not comparing him career-wise to Tiger because he's already 28 years old. He's not ever going to get there, just like no one will ever get there. But could he have a season like one of Tiger's peak seasons? He's certainly on the way. 3 wins by the end of February is pretty good. We'll see him next month at the Players Championship, maybe at the Arnold Palmer, and then we'll see him at the Masters. So it's a lot of fun to watch a guy at the top of his game like that. He's already co-favorite for the Masters. You can bet him at Caesars at 7-1, along with Rory McIlroy. So yeah, it'll be a lot of fun to watch.
Yes, indeed. And I'm not even that big into golf, but yeah, it's early. It's been a good start. So yeah, I'm gonna have to tune in more this year.
Yeah, he's his best finish at the Masters, 4th place in 2018. So he has not done as well there as Rory has, but he is the co-favorite. So we'll keep an eye on that as we go. Before we get to our next topic, a comment here from Herman. This is a little bit of a too long, didn't read, Herman, but Carr can't get worse than Eddie Dalton. No, I mean, the question with Carr is the money, and you got to make him want you for the right price. And then Alvin Kamara, probably facing a suspension. There's more out there than the quarterback. Absolutely. I mean, but I will say one advantage, if you can win the Derek Carr sweepstakes, is that you then have that full complement of draft picks to work on the other positions. You can go get a running back in the 2nd or 3rd round. You can go get a defensive or offensive lineman with that 1st round pick. And you can really bolster your roster where it needs to be bolstered through the draft.
Yeah, for sure. And as far as that 1st round, to me, it's got to be an offensive lineman. The Saints' offensive line, in my opinion, is not in a good spot, especially the interior. I mean, it's like, I know Ruiz is still young, McCoy, they signed an extension, but Andres Pete, to me, has got to go. They've got to revamp that interior, add some depth, and also, to me, a new left guard, because I've just Andres Pete's had chance after chance. He's not cutting it.
Yeah, and I mean, Trevor Penning was hurt most of last year, showed some flashes in the second half of the year. I think you've got a piece there. But injury questions, aging questions all over that offensive line. So I think they need to bolster it. Need some more pass rushers too. You bet, Herman. Thanks for tuning in. Speaking of football, we're gonna move on here, and I gotta admit I'm not all that excited about this topic, Spencer. But the question at hand was, if you had to choose, would you choose to watch the XFL or the USFL? And related question, would you bet on the XFL or USFL in football, in football's in the NFL offseason?
Well, I'm going in. I'll admit I'm going in kind of skeptical. I'm not really feeling either one of these. I'll admit though the XFL had some intriguing names: Josh Gordon, Martavis Bryant, some guys that had talent but just couldn't pass a drug test in the NFL, or, a little more mature now, doing the XL. So, there's some talent out there, but it's still, they've got to show me. I'm going to try to watch a few games, but they got to show me that these games are worth watching. Because to me, I view something as, if I'm not even going to watch it, I don't want to bet on it. I want to have something that's worth watching if I'm going to bet. So to me, I'm staying away for now. But if they show me something, I'll try to keep an open mind. But right now, just not really feeling the hype surrounding these. I know it's football, but it's just not NFL, not even close.
Yeah, I mean, ESPN, which is telecasting the XFL, is just trying to shove it down your throat. It's just nonstop. If you look at their social media, their commercials, their promo, oh, the XFL is back and it's football and The Rock is yelling at you, and look at what the St. Louis Battlehawks did and the Seattle Sea Dragons. Like, for one thing, these names are the sort of names that you come up with if you're in fifth grade and you're creating a fake football league in your backyard with your cousin, right? Like, let's have the Battlehawks and the Vipers and the Sea Dragons. Like, these names are ridiculous. And I get the XFL is supposed to be kind of theater of the absurd, and that's neither here nor there. Look, I'm the type of guy who likes some seasonality in my sports. And what I mean by that is, when it's football season, I freaking love football season. I'll watch it every Saturday. I'll watch it every Sunday. I'll tune in for the Thursday night games. I'll think about the games all week. But when football season is over, yeah, I'm a little sad, but I'm not like Jim Derry, who sits around and twiddles his thumbs between Mardi Gras and, opening of training camp. Like, hey, it's basketball season. I'm going to get into March Madness. By the way, the women's basketball SEC tournament is next week. We're already almost to March Madness. So like, I then I'll get into baseball season. I love opening day. It might be my favorite sports day of the entire year. I'll start watching baseball, college baseball. We talked about LSU sweeping Western Michigan. Golf, I'll get into golf. Like, I love the seasonality of sports. And then by the time the NFL rolls back around and college football rolls back around, like, yeah, I'm ready for it. I wish it started in July instead of late August, early September. But like, my whistle is wet. Like, I'm ready, and then I love football that much more. I don't need the XFL in the spring. I don't need the USFL in the spring. I don't need the St. Louis Battlehawks and the New Orleans Breakers, who have never played a single game in New Orleans. No. And Horace says he's ready for baseball. You have odds. Yeah, there are odds in the World Baseball Classic. I believe, and it starts March the 7th. We'll get into that in the next few shows. I believe the Dominican Republic is actually a slight favorite over the USA. It's like plus 250 to plus 300 or something. And then you have Venezuela, Puerto Rico, some of the other Latin American countries are up there as well. Japan is up there. So yeah, I'm with you. I just can't get into it. I will say, I wish I'd watched the XFL instead of the NBA All-Star game last night.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was tough. Yeah, and I watched the Daytona 500, which was pretty entertaining. But when we get to the rant segment later, I got a kind of a bone to pick with NASCAR, because I like my NASCAR, but man, that ending had me upset.
Yeah, we do have rants coming at the end of the show. We're calling it our sound off segment. One more topic to get through first, and that's related to what we just talked about. With football over, what gets the most of your betting attention? And not just that, but your sports fan. Because like you mentioned, we bet on games not because we want to read the box scores. We bet on games because it makes them more fun to watch. And so when we're talking about our house money parlays for the rest of the year and some of our other bets, what do you like to turn your focus to now that football is over for the season?
Yeah, for me personally, I like my racing, but it's hard to bet on racing, man. So what I like to bet on is, in the spring, we got basketball. I really like watching basketball. It's my second favorite sport to watch after football. So tend to bet more NBA. I like to bet NBA. It was kind of tough today for daily best bets because there's no NBA. So I had to turn to college, we went a couple chalk favorites there and hoping they can cover. But as far as overall, I prefer, NBA, some college, but mainly NBA in the spring. But then when the summer comes around and NBA and, ball basketball is finished at that point, then I turn my attention to baseball, because there's value to be had with baseball, especially when with these pitching matchups sometimes, and then with conditions and just crazy stuff. With baseball, it's that daily grind, and there are times where you can find value with baseball to where it can be fun to bet on.
Pretty nice sweat in baseball to bet the Nerfy, the no runs in the first
Yeah,
inning, and
yeah. If
just
you just want
sit there
something
and wait for
quick, just a
6 outs.
quick
Yeah,
fix. Yeah, exactly.
those are pretty fun. So yeah, I like those. My thing, and this is like Uncle Big Nick got me into it in part, and some other people have gotten me into it. But like betting on golf has become really fun for me to the point where I look forward every weekend to see what the field is going to look like, what the odds boards looks like. Played some DraftKings. I won a small DraftKings tournament over the weekend, $150 for a $5 entry. Um, which was the first one of those that I'd hit. It's just a ton of fun. You have Thursday, Friday, you sweat out the cut on Friday to see if your guys make the cut, and then Saturday, Sunday, watching the leaderboard kind of go up and down. Unfortunately, have not bet Jon Rahm yet this year, which is apparently stupid of me. But it's another one like NASCAR where you don't always want to bet the favorite because a lot of times
Yeah.
the favorites in these huge events are not the ones winning. So I tend to look away from that, and so don't do as well when Jon Rahm wins. But it's still a lot of fun. And it's one of those relaxing sports too, where you can flip the TV on for 45 minutes, check out what's going on, and then when you got to go run the errand, you got the honeydew list, you go outside to play with the kids, whatever it is, do yard work. You can turn it off and then check back on it a couple hours later, still go. Like I don't sit and watch these things for 6 hours at a time, but it is a lot of fun. So golf is the one for me, and yeah, we got a lot going on though. It's not going to end.
No, not at all. We're just getting started with these spring sports, and then have our summer stuff. So it doesn't slow down. There's always something to bet on. There's always, even on days like today with no NBA, there's some college games to watch. If you really want to watch something, they've got it.
All right, we're going to end the show with what we call our sound off segment. This is new, and we're each going to get a minute. When Jim comes back, we might have to give him like a minute 20 because we need like Jim inflation for time. But for now, we're just going to say a minute to rant about something. And my rant is going to be on All-Star games, not just the NBA All-Star game. And I'll get into that rant now. Look, the NBA All-Star game, we saw it last night, completely broken. Nobody cared. The players didn't play any defense. They had a couple of showy dunks, which everybody wants to see, but that's not all you want to see. And by the fourth quarter, it was just like a layup line, which I think is what Jaylen Brown called it. Michael Malone, the Nuggets coach, who was coaching Team LeBron, called it the worst basketball game he's ever seen. Jaylen Brown called it a glorified layup line. The NFL's Pro Bowl has always had the same problem. They're playing flag football because they are leaning into how unserious this is. Major League Baseball's All-Star game, probably the best of the major sports, but even then, you've got the issue of every team gets at least one All-Star. Nobody wants to play the full game, and so when the game's on the line in the ninth inning, you end up with a Nationals reliever facing the Royals' backup second baseman, in a tie game in the ninth inning, and it's not the real All-Stars who are deciding it. So, my question is, how do you fix this? Do you just not have All-Star games? Do you just name All-Stars and then get everybody together for a red carpet thing, do your home run derby and do your dunk contest and then not actually play a game and have everyone just smile and shake hands? Or do you do MLS has a good one. They bring in a Premier League team to play every year, so it's kind of like a league pride thing. But other than that, I don't know what you do, Spencer.
Yeah, unfortunately, I feel like these All-Star games, and as we saw at the Pro Bowl this year, they abandoned it. It is broken beyond repair because the modern athlete they don't care. They don't have that same like chip on their shoulder, that pride to represent the American League or the National League or the Western Conference or the Eastern Conference. They just don't have that as far as that wanting to win because they get paid to play for their respective team, and they don't feel like they want to put their bodies on the line for these all-star events. So it's kind of tough because it's in today's sports, it's harder than ever on bodies. Injuries just seem to keep going up. It's tougher to stay healthy. It's a tough grind, but with these all-star games, to me, you just gotta accept that that's just how it is. And probably for like the NBA, I mean, you just gotta To me, it's silly to even play the game. I mean, you got like the Pro Bowl, like with the dodgeball thing. Like, just have more like fun events, I guess, because it's a baseball. You could probably still keep it, but for the other sports, it's like I don't know
Here's
what
the
you
thing.
can do.
And I know
Too
I
far
went
gone.
over a minute, and then I made fun of Jim, and I went over a minute. I think these are actually supposed to be 2 minutes. We may look at that. It's a work in progress. But I like my thing is, if you're going to have the game, and the NBA is going to tell us that this matters, and they're going to bring in um, music stars to play halftime shows, and they're going to have a huge pregame show and make the whole league come to Utah for God's sakes in February, and like run these big expensive commercials. Give us a reason to care, because right now there's no reason to care. The games are broken. So that's my rant. Spencer, your sound off is on the NASCAR overtime policy.
Right. Yeah. I'm done with NASCAR overtime. It's ridiculous. It seems like especially at these super speedway races like Daytona and Talladega, they do this overtime to prevent races, or supposedly prevent races from ending under caution. But what always seems to end up happening is that they have the caution late, and then they do the overtime, and then it results in an even bigger wreck that usually collects over half the cars, and then as a result, the race still ends under caution because they always say we want a green flag finish. But last night wasn't even close to a green flag finish. They wrecked like on the about, I don't even know if they were halfway through the white flag lap when they wrecked. So it's like it's not like they didn't get the race back to the line. It was just the field was frozen, and so that was the end of the race, which is what we don't want. But to me, it's like, well, it's a 200 lap distance. If it ends under caution, well, then just end it. I mean, because if it's overtime, it's probably still going to end under caution anyway. So if the objective of what you want from this overtime isn't being produced, if it's not producing green flag finishes, then they just need to do away with it. And I'm also slightly salty about Kyle Busch because he would have, not at him for that, but salty with NASCAR because Kyle Busch had the lead. If they would have been the old rules and just thrown the caution and had it end under caution without overtime, he would have won, and he was one of my Fast Five picks. So
I knew
yeah.
there was a bet behind this. I
So
knew
there
there was
was
a
a
bet
bet behind
it.
it, I'll admit, but I'm still, even with that, I don't feel like I'm being biased. I'm just, as I've seen it over the years with
Yeah.
NASCAR. It's not worth trying to extend these things out. If it's 200 laps, make it 200 laps and just end it under yellow. Whoever's winning, because it's probably going to end under yellow anyway.
And as someone who's a NASCAR casual fan, let's say, like I'm the type of person that NASCAR, if they want to grow, needs to go after. When I tune into the end of a race, I don't get what's going on. Like there's a wreck and then there's overtime. Oh, okay, I guess there's 2 more laps, but when do those 2 laps start? Oh, I guess they started now. Oh, there's another wreck. How come they're not extending it 2 more laps? Like it's very confusing. I would just
Yes.
say end the race when it ends, and that's what happens. And a related point, Spencer, I will say people have too big of a problem with ties in sports. And this is not NASCAR. I understand an individual sport, a golf tournament. You can't you need to break a tie. Like there has to be a champion. But in regular season events, like do we need to play overtime in the NFL? Do we need to play overtime in the NBA? Why can't there be a tie? Do we need to play extra innings in baseball? Um, if the teams played even on that day, give them a tie in their record. We used to do it in hockey. You do it in soccer. I know this is going to be an unpopular take, but you didn't play good enough to win. You didn't play poorly enough to lose. You get a tie in your record, and that is reflected in your record at the end of the season. And then once we get to the playoffs, yes, we're going to have to break these ties somehow. But a tie can be representative of how you performed on that day. So I'll say that. I mean, this culture of we have to have a winner and it has to end exactly the way we wanted it to. No, we don't. It's sports. Sometimes it's just the way it works out. Sometimes the two sides were even on that day. Uh, yeah, I know USA no tie, but hey, MLS season starts on Saturday, so don't give me that because they got ties in MLS, and MLS has grown faster than any professional league in America outside of the NFL in the last 20 years. So I just don't. Sometimes that's what it is. Hey, we do have a poll question as well. We've been doing the last couple of weeks. Our poll question for you, and this is also a teaser to Thursday's show. Where will the Pelicans finish the 2023 season? top 4 seed. That means they get home court in the first round. Got a lot of work to do to get there, but only 2 games behind the Clippers, who sit in 4th right now. Number 5 or 6 seed, which I think is probably my pick right now. Although I may also pick back in the play-in tournament. They're tied for 7th right now. They would be in the play-in tournament if the season ended today. Or does this become a disaster and they are out of the postseason altogether? You can log on to bet.nola.com, place your vote. It's live right now on the site. Check that out, and we will show the results on Thursday's edition of Bayou Bets, Spencer.
For sure. Yeah, let's just say I haven't decided what my vote is going to be yet, but I'm definitely not already cross off disaster. There's no way. This team's deep enough. Even if Zion's deal ends up a disaster, like I still think they at least make the play-in tournament. But like I said last week, I'm staying optimistic. I think Zion will come back and that the Pels will be okay and could be a force to make a deep run.
Jerry is here, and he says, well, you
Jerry,
missed our segment
about
– you're going to have to go back and watch the replay, Jerry. We talked about the XFL a little bit.
We weren't too excited about it.
It's not for me, man. It's it can be basketball season now. It doesn't always have to be football season, and that's okay. But we will talk Derek Carr, and as I said, I wish I had watched that instead of the NBA All-Star Game ridiculousness. I wish I had watched the draft and then turned that excrement off. All right, that's our show. We'll see where Derek Carr signs here in the next few weeks. We'll be back Thursday. I don't think he'll sign by then. 4 o'clock on Thursday, we're going to talk some more Pelicans as they prepare for, you can't call it the second half, can you? It's really like the 4th quarter of the season. They got 23 games left at this point. So they'll play a couple of them this weekend, and they'll be down to 21 games. So Jim Derry will be back on Thursday as well. So we'll welcome him back from vacation. And we'll keep rolling, Spencer.
Yes. Yeah, I can't wait. We're going to have a lot going on. And that's the cool thing with everyone say about XFL and all that, USFL. But with the NFL, it's a year-round news cycle. I mean, the Super Bowl just ended, and we're already talking Derek Carr and stuff. So to me, and
NFL Combine next week too.
Exactly. There's enough NFL news to where if y'all want to bet XFL, cool. But I probably won't be messing with that.
Jerry, it's okay, but only this time. Be on time next week, 4 o'clock Thursday on Bayou Bets. No, we love you, Jerry. We will talk to you all soon. Thanks for being here. Bet.NOLA.com for all your sports betting and Louisiana sports news. And we'll be back on these same channels at 4 o'clock on Thursday. See you then.